All right, all right. This we're getting to our third session on the Eastern Time Zone. Actually, the fourth. Sorry, a little lost here in time. This one is labeled as interview tips and prep for Microsoft Dynamics jobs. This is going to be delivered by a friend of mine, Nate Wade. Let's mute folks here. All right. So we're good now. Nate Wade is a recruiter. He has quite a bit of experience in the market, and he made himself available to give us tips and help us better prepared for future interviews. My hope is that this event will contribute to folks' careers, and it's going to be a tipping point in their career. So hopefully this session will be of value for you. And knowing Nate, I think it will. So Nate, take it away. It's all you, bro.
Perfect. First, I want to thank Victor for giving me the opportunity to begin with, as well as the entire 365 Saturday community. I'm also here with one of my colleagues from our CRM contracts team as well, Danny Tomney. Him and I have both been at Nigel Frank for about a year and a half now. Like Victor said, we have a really strong, deep understanding of the dynamics market on both the candidate and the client side. So I'm glad that Victor asked me to be a part of this great weekend. So like mentioned, my name is Nate Wade, and I'm a recruitment consultant at Nigel Frank International.
Yeah, my name is Danny Tomney. Call me Dan, whatever works. I'm also a recruitment consultant there at Nigel Frank International. Both Nate and I specialize in the dynamic CRM market. However, we do have other teams that focus on other products such as F&O, Business Central, GP, and all that good stuff. So yeah, so like we said, we work at Nigel Frank International. We're the global leaders in Microsoft recruitment. Both Nate and I specialize in dynamic CRM market, like we told you guys, but we do have teams covering the other side of dynamics. So we're kind of well versed in as much as we can be within dynamics, but we work with different hiring managers across small, medium, and even enterprise level organizations with their dynamic CRM teams. I know through my experiences, I've worked with companies such as like JB Hunt, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and so I'll work directly with the CTO or CIO, or maybe it's the IT manager that looks over the dynamics staff. Nate can kind of tell you a little bit more about the entire overview of this presentation, but let's pass it over.
So yeah, like Danny mentioned, so we work with organizations of all sizes, from startups all the way up, partners and users, and each organization, each company size and type can bring different challenges to the interview process. I know that a lot of people struggle in certain industries or certain company types when it comes to preparing and executing the interview. So this session, the main goal and objective is to just provide you guys with as much valuable interview tips as we can for preparation and tips and tricks during the interview and also after the interview is completed. Just do whatever we can to really help your interviewing skills, whether it's any questions at the end or any valuable insight that we can provide along the way, and just help you guys do as well as possible in your next interview and secure your next Dynamics job. So we'll go over some of the tips and tricks of preparation, different ideas and things to consider when getting ready for your next interview, what you should be expecting, and ways to perform well and during the interview process. and just an overall checklist of things you should be thinking about, considering, and reviewing from start to finish, from getting the interview request to the time you walk out of the door after the interview is done, and some resources that can help you prepare and execute as best as possible. And then we'll have a Q&A, open the floor up a little bit for Q&A at the end. So preparation in an interview is definitely one of the most important factors. A lot of people struggle with interviews because they don't prepare. There's a lot of legwork that can go on the back end of getting ready for an interview. Research is definitely one of your best friends in terms of interview preparation. You need to research a lot of different aspects. It's not just what the company does and what the job is. You really need to take a deep dive into what exactly does the job description say? Is the company looking for? What does the role entail? And how does that match up with your skill sets? How does that play into your strengths? What's you're best at? What you can bring to the table? Find out what are they looking for? What kind of skill set? What types of experiences from past roles, past positions? How much experience is it? Is it to step up to your next more senior role, or is it more of a lateral move into the similar seniority level that you're currently at? And what are the overall responsibilities and requirements on a day-to-day basis for the job you're interviewing for? Knowing as much as you possibly can about the job itself will help you tremendously in every aspect of the interview process. And if you are to receive an offer and start the next opportunity, knowing from day one exactly what's expected of you, so you can perform and prove that you are the best option and you were the right choice for that job. Look into the company. Do as much research about the company as you possibly can. What's their organization size? What industry are they in? Do they have any parent companies, any subsidiaries? What do they do? What do they specialize in? What all technologies do they use? If you're, for example, a CRM developer, do they run Dynamics AX as well? That maybe your past experience integrating the CRM and the ERP together could benefit you in the process. What versions are they on? Are they on an older version that you may be able to demonstrate how your expertise in upgrading from 2015 to 365? Are they using a lot with portals? Can you kind of demonstrate your experience with that, so you can have the strongest arsenal going into the interview? Do they have any projects going on, whether it's any upgrades? Do they have any, whether they're technology related or not? Is there something going on in the news? Do they have any awards, recognitions, something that they're known for nationally or globally that can really show that you did your research and you are interested in the job? You want the job. You're interested in this company that could be your next employer. And then also, one thing that a lot of people kind of overlook is do research on the interviewer. Obviously, you should be knowing their name, but what's their title? Are they in a specific department that may or may not be, the department you're working? Are they on the marketing team, and they want to see if you can help, really drive their D365 for marketing tool? Can you help them with their marketing automation? No, that'll give you a better understanding of what they're doing with their system, what their plans are. Really depending on who all is, what all departments are in on that interview as well. How long have they been with the company? What's their personality? Are they more laid back? Do they prefer straight to the point answers? are there any, similarities between you and the interviewer, whether it's common connections? If you went to the same school, you worked at this same company before, even if it wasn't at the same time, something that you can relate to them, because a lot of interviews, if there's two individuals that are interviewing and they have the same skill set, the interviewer is likely to want to gravitate towards whoever they had that connection with, whoever they got on with the best, and whoever they were able to, see themselves working with on a day-to-day basis.
Yep.
And then do kind of have some research on what the market is. Is it a slow market? Are there a lot of jobs out there right now? A lot of people are hiring. Are there a lot of projects going on? Are a lot of people trying to, if you're on contracts, are a lot of people trying to use up their end of the year budgets? So there's a high need for extra resources. And kind of that market research helps you also understand the competition of who else is out there interviewing, where else can I be interviewing, how can I get more opportunities for myself to land that next opportunity, that next dream job. Touch up on your skills. If the company you're interviewing for, if they're on an older version of CRM, AX, Navision, GP, if they're on an older version and you may not have used it in 6 months, you may not have used it in a year, brush up, do whether it's, read a blog, play around in Sandbox, go to a user group meeting, speak with someone else in your network, whether it's, someone from your LinkedIn, someone that you've worked with in the past. Do whatever you can to brush up on your skills, on your technologies, something that you may not be completely confident in, but you have the experience with. If that's something that is needed in the job you're interviewing for, make sure you understand it and you're as confident with that technology, with that skill as you can be going into the interview. And brush up on any processes. One of the biggest struggles some of my candidates that I've seen have had is they'll get into an interview and they know how to create a plugin. They can create a plugin in their sleep. They can do whatever they need to when they get in front of the computer, but they're not familiar or comfortable talking about the process and demonstrating that they fully know what they're doing and that they can execute the job better than anyone else. And just brush up on whatever you can so you can walk the walk and talk the talk. So you can do the coding, you can create the plugin, but you can also teach someone or explain it to the interviewer, someone who may be less technical than you, and just practice. Whether it's in the mirror the night before, the morning of, if it's on the way to the job interview, if it's in the shower, just practice, rehearse questions that you think they may ask you. Practice any questions or any answers that you may be expected to give. Practice talking about yourself, going through, a brief synopsis of your history, your experience, and what you're looking for and why you're the best option for this opportunity. And then think of any questions that you may want to ask and that they'll ask you. There's hundreds and thousands of interview questions online that you can look through and pick out questions that would be common. Speak with someone who may have been in a similar interview process for a different company, find out what questions they may ask. Speak with a recruiter, speak with someone in your network who may be a hiring manager, and find out what types of questions may be asked. Think of questions that you want to ask about the company, about the opportunity, about the project that they're doing, about the versions that they're on, what it's like to work in the office, what's the team size. something that also goes a long way for you in the interview to show that you did your research and you're interested in more than just the job description that you're interviewing for. You're interested in the entire organization and being an intricate part of that.
Yeah, so something to add to that. I know, when you do get the opportunity to ask a question, you can just ask, like, how does this hire affect your role? Because ultimately, this hire is going to, either help them out or, may hurt. We don't know. But if you can really find out what exactly, they're looking for in a candidate, why they're looking for that in a candidate, just be sure to flip that into, you talking about yourself and what you're capable of doing and, what kind of experience you have and, why you're a good fit. So, when you do get the opportunity to ask a question, just, try to dissect, the interviewer and get as much information as you can and then just sell back on that. And, at the end of the day, their lives want to be easier. That's why they're hiring someone a lot of the time. So just always remember to kind of, come back to that and let them know that you're a good fit because you're gonna, solve their solution.
Yeah, exactly. And so you've done your research, you've practiced, you've done as much preparation as you can. Now you're finally in the interview. Naturally, you're nervous, but through that all, one of the biggest things and most important things in while in the interview is confidence. Whether you're nervous or not, you have to display confidence in your demeanor, your body language, and your answers. Even if you know how to explain something, you know the answer 100%, and you can answer it perfectly. If you're timid or you're not confident in delivering your answer, that's naturally going to produce doubts and some uncertainty in the eyes of the interviewer because they're not sure if you just remember, you studied up on how to answer that question and you don't really know that. But if you're confident when you deliver and you show that I know what I'm talking about, I am the expert, this is what I do on a daily basis, then that really displays on them and they are able to trust and value that you are as good as your resume says, you are as good as they suspected you are, and you are potentially the perfect fit or the ideal fit for what they are looking for. And then know your audience, know who you're going to be speaking with. I know that was part of the preparation, but make sure that you're tailoring your delivery to whoever you are speaking with. If it's someone who gives very short questions, very short answers, and they are very straight to the point, and they don't like a lot of small talk or a lot of fluff, then make sure that you're very deliberate with your answers. If it's someone who likes the small talk in between, they like more of a casual, laid back. Make sure you tailor your approach to them to make sure that you are matching the person interviewing you and kind of mirroring their demeanor and mirroring their personality. And I know, I'm sure Danny can agree. There are three main things that really all interviewers look for. They've seen your resume, they know your experience, but at the end of the day, the interview is to find out, can you do the job? Do you want the job? And can you fit in with the team that they've worked hard to build out? They know your experiences, they know what you've done, what you've accomplished, but they want to be confident that whoever they move forward with is able to do the job better than everyone else. And they actually want to be there. They're not just in the interview for just for practice or because someone in their network or someone in their family said that they should just start interviewing. And they want to make sure that they're not going to, break down the morale of their tere's not going to be issues with whoever is brought on. your number one job within the interview process would be to make sure that you do everything possible to convince the interviewer that you can do all three. You're the best person for the job. You want the job, legitimately want the job, and you are a great fit with whatever their team is. And you would be a very valuable member to add to their team. They at the end of the day, it's the interview's done. A lot of people can be afraid to ask, what's the next steps. That's something that creating that future talk gets the interviewer to start imagining, okay, this guy has the skill set we're looking for. He's a great fit with the team. He's really interested in the job and the company and what we do, and asking the next steps of, what are the next steps moving forward? What's next in the process? Asking that question forces them to picture you, in that role, which does nothing but benefit you. And it starts moving them towards, imagining how well you'll be doing, 3 months, 6 months, year down the road. So don't be afraid to ask that next step question. I know it can be something that can be kind of uncomfortable at times, but it's something that will do nothing but benefit you in the long term.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. I mean, and there's another question I like to tell my candidates to ask, just because you kind of get to cover some things that maybe you didn't feel comfortable presenting, or you didn't get enough time to present. So something I say is, always ask the interviewer, hey, like, I don't want to leave this conversation without you thinking I'm a good fit for this role. Is there anything else you want me to cover? And it sounds, the interviewer will be impressed, because one, the conversation is going to continue, and maybe there's something else that he's looking for that you haven't had the chance to cover. So that question kind of lets you go over everything one more time, and also find out more, if what else are they looking for, and if you can do it. So it's a good question to ask.
Exactly. So this is a little checklist. I'm sure I can speak for Danny as well, that I'm sure he goes through most, if not all of these, with all of his candidates. I know I do, and most of our colleagues do as well. This is a good checklist of things from start to finish, from preparation to walking into the interview, to kind of run through and make sure that you've covered all of your bases on everything. First off is dress code. What kind of company is it? Is it a law firm that you're interviewing at, where it might have to be business professional all the time? Is it a startup company that may be a little bit more relaxed? What do they expect of you? Find out. You can ask whether you're working with a recruiter, whether it's from an agency or internally, someone in the HR department internally. Find out what they expect you to, how they expect you to show up. Do they expect someone who might be clean cut? Is there a certain dress code attire that they prefer, or they would require, whether it's for an interview or the day-to-day responsibilities? If it's an on-site interview, how are you getting there? Are you going to take an Uber? Is it close enough to walk to? Will you be driving, taking public transportation? And then plan that out, whether it's the day before or the night before or a few days before. How long will that take with traffic? How long will it take without traffic? Make sure you leave and give yourself plenty of time to get there at least 15 minutes early, to plan for it. Traffic, a car accident, if you get a flat tire, make sure you give yourself as much time as possible to ensure that you don't show up late to your first impression. And make sure you're bringing, where to park. Is there a parking garage? Is there a parking lot for the building? will you have to park on the street? Make sure you plan that out as well. Whether it's asking the recruiter, HR, the receptionist, a Google search, find out as much about the commute as possible to make sure that you are on time, that you're punctual, and that there aren't any factors that you could have controlled by whether it's leaving early or preparing a bit more that could have that bad first impression. And then make sure you bring a copy of your CV or your resume. 9 times out of 10, the interviewer will have it already, but you always want to, it's better to be over prepared than not prepared at all. And then what kind of interview is it? Is it going to be a technical interview with a technical test, highly technical questions with whether it's the solution architect, the lead developer, the IT director, or is it going to be a more casual format with maybe the HR or a recruiter? Knowing what type of interview format you're preparing for means all the difference. If you think it's going to be just a casual going through your experience interview and you show up and it's a technical interview, it'll cause some frustration and some anxiety on your part, and you might not be able to perform to the best of your abilities just from not being certain and asking that extra question. And then if it's going to be a Skype or a video question or a video interview, have you downloaded the correct software? Are the drivers downloaded? Is the software updated? Make sure you are doing this as far in advance as possible, so you're not trying to log on 5 minutes before and find out you have a 20-minute download, and then you have to frantically try and get a hold of the interviewer to reschedule or to postpone. And then who are you going to be speaking with? Is it going to be potentially your future manager? Is it someone from the development team? Is it someone in the C-suite, the CIO, CTO, president? Is it the head of HR or someone in talent acquisition? And then will it be a panel? Will it be just one person? Make sure that there's no surprises when you get into the interview, because that's another struggle that a lot of my candidates have come across, is when they don't know or they didn't ask that extra question, they didn't do that bit of research, and they get thrown off because they're surprised when something doesn't go completely according to how they assumed or how they had planned, and it can take away from your ability to properly answer the questions. And again, research is key. Whether it's researching the interviewer, making sure you know everything about them, the company, any potential questions, make sure that you've demonstrated that you're interested in the company, you're interested in what they do, and you're interested in being the next best hire that they've made. And then look over the job description again, look over the role details, and figure out what top 3 skills that you possess or top 3 experiences that you've had that match up with what they're looking for, what they want out of a candidate, and what they want the candidate to be able to do. So you can properly demonstrate that you are the best option for the role and there's no one out there who would be a smarter choice for the company. And just make sure, obviously, if it's a video or a in-person interview, make sure that your body language is positive. Make sure you're sitting up straight, keeping eye contact with the interviewer. Make sure that you're not wandering, your eyes aren't wandering off, and that you're speaking clearly and concisely with some enthusiasm. Make sure it's very clear that you want to be there and that you're not just trying to get through the next 30 minutes. So whether it's working with an agency or an internal recruiter, a lot of people ask, how am I supposed to do all this research, do all this preparation when I'm working 40, 50 hours a week. We have a go live next week. I don't have time to, do all this extra research for the interview. One of the benefits of, working with, whether it's an agency, an internal recruiter, is either side, they have a deep market insight and market knowledge. They know the trends of whether it's the company or the market in general. They have access to the knowledge of what projects are going on, what projects may be planned, what projects are going on in the area around, and what open jobs they have. They have an understanding of exactly what the jobs are, what the jobs are looking for, what jobs are top priority over the others. And they're also able to provide one-on-one coaching and one-on-one preparation. I know from Danny and I, a lot of our clients that we work with, we've built relationships with the past year and a half, where we're able to better understand what they're looking for in terms of skill set, as well as what they're looking for in terms of a personality fit. And really understanding, whether it's speaking with internal HR or whoever, just finding out exactly what they're looking for on both sides, the technical side as well as the personal side, is really valuable to securing your next job and getting the leg up on everyone else who might be interviewing. And the internal recruiters and agencies are able to, from experience with that client or similar roles, they're able to give you a better understanding of what type of questions may be asked, what specific questions may be asked, what the specific topic is going to be or focus of the interview. Is it going to be a scenario-based question? Is it going to be just technical questions? And give you that extra research and that extra preparation, so you can go into the interview as confident as possible, so you can do the best that you can possibly do. And we manage the process, which makes it a lot easier for a lot of our candidates. We do the research, we do the market knowledge, we do as much preparation for you, so you don't have to look into the deep dives of the company history or the role details. And we're able to get you that detailed feedback that may take a little bit longer if you apply directly just through the website or just a friend of a friend. And then the large connected network outreach, whether it's again internally or in agency, that deep market knowledge and the hundreds of candidates and clients and thousands of really help expand networks to pass along candidates that may be looking, pass along any interview tips, any preparation that may be needed, or anything that may be beneficial to prepare you and make sure that you have that advantage going into the interview.
Yeah, and just something to add as well. In a lot of situations, you may not be actively looking for your next role, but working with agency recruiters, could help save you a lot of time. Because say if I speak with you and I get to understand your skill set and what you're looking for, it's then my job to just actively go out there and touch base with all the hiring managers I've built a relationship with, and just let them know, hey, this guy's local, he's on the market, I think he's a good fit. Can you make some room on your team for him? And a lot of the times the hiring managers are like, yeah, because one, they're taking you away from their competitor or their competitor, and they get an experienced developer or business analyst, whatever you may be. So don't be scared to take those conversations with recruiters, and feel free to ask them what they have on right now. What roles do you guys have live right now? And I just think it's extremely beneficial to have someone going out in the market and actively trying to find you a job while you're still in your role, and you can focus on your current project and your current work. So it is something to consider, and just, always just be truthful, when you're speaking with the recruiters, because, if I'm talking to someone and they say, oh, I won't leave unless I get this, and I find that, you know what I mean? It's just good to have like a built relationship and trust, and it makes finding a new job that much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's a ton of different resources, especially with um, the internet and really the world at the tip of our fingers. Um, but I know a lot of different, especially in terms of um, Microsoft jobs and resources. Obviously, Microsoft, the website would be a good resource to do any research on. But for example, the Nigel Frank International website, I know we have blogs from Microsoft. We use a lot of MVPs and a lot of experienced professionals to publish their blog posts, whether it's the basics of Dynamics, the basics of CRM, and everything you need to know about it.
Did you
That
cut
we
out?
use. It looks like something happened. Let me
Yeah.
see if I can. Oop. Is that back up?
Yep, it's
Yeah, it's
back
back
up.
now.
Perfect, perfect. Or the recruiters who can even just answer a question. Or I know most of our recruiters, I know Danny and myself included, would be more than happy to hop on a call, whether it's to help you tailor up your resume, or give you tips, like this, to help you in your next opportunity, help you in your next interview. Just ask about what the market trends, when the best time maybe to start looking for a new job. Um, it's always free and easy to just shoot us a message or give us a call, even if it's just to ask a simple question like that. Glassdoor as well. I know a lot of both recruiters from different agencies and candidates use Glassdoor, whether it's looking up the team size, looking up the organization size, looking and seeing if that's really an organization that you may want to work with. What's the company truly like? What do the employees say? Getting that internal input, finding out what the benefits are roughly looking like going into that, and not being surprised on day one, or being surprised at the end of the process. Company websites are invaluable as well. Going to the company's website, they'll give you the history, the leadership. They'll give you any outside information you need to know about what they do. You can find out the industry, which can help you find out, what they specialize in, any parent companies that they may have that can provide you with deeper preparation, deeper insight, but as well as other potential opportunities to showcase your industry experience, showcase your project experience, that one of the other candidates may not have. User groups, I know that they're definitely a valuable resource. That it's a network of professionals that are more than willing to do whatever they can to help someone out. They know a lot of people have been in your shoes before. They've had those experiences, they've had those struggles, and they want to be able to do whatever they can for someone maybe a bit more junior, or someone who may be struggling in an aspect, because they've been there and they know how much it helped, and how grateful they were when someone else reached out and assisted them. So I know a lot of people in user groups are more than happy to be able to lend a helping hand, whether it's brushing up on an old skill, or trying to overcome an obstacle with coding, or just tips of what they did when they interviewed. And LinkedIn is the same way. I know I've seen plenty of people reach out, ask for help on LinkedIn. I know LinkedIn and the 365 Saturdays, a big reason just Victor and the rest of the 365 Saturday team had this idea to put this great conference together. And it's just a group of like-minded people who may or may not all know each other, who want nothing more but to help someone else out, especially someone else who may need that extra advice, may need that extra boost. So that's also a very invaluable resource that a lot of people may overlook for asking for help on any level.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if Danny has anything else to add, but we can feel free to open up the floor a bit for a brief Q&A for anyone who may
Yeah.
have any questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, Victor here. Sorry to interject. I saw three questions that I marked for to ask later. There's a guy asking for essentially how the U.S. market is today, if companies are sponsoring working visa or allowing remote workers. I'll give my 2 cents into it as a professional in the market. What I see happening is that companies will be open for remote workers, and that would level the field, if you will, in terms of who can do what, unless the government start to create legislation around hiring foreign workers. Because if it's a remote opportunity, it doesn't matter where the person is, right? So I see that the market for remote folks will be increasing moving forward. I'm not sure if it would be offshore or near shore or even in the country, but for sure the market will be more favorable for remote workers. Then there are a couple of other questions that I think are more geared towards you, Nate, and Daniel. The first one from Andy. Most of the time, resumes get rejected by ATS, the automated systems for application. What can we do to avoid the rejections?
Yeah. That's a great question. Yeah. Um, one, I would recommend, when you first see that, job application, you're like, oh, this is a great fit. And instead of just, going through, those 5 pages of all the information you have to, input, then it just disappears. Instead of doing that, what I recommend is like going to LinkedIn, you know, uh, going to the company page, seeing all the employees there, and maybe filter it by whatever product you work with. So, in my shoes, I would do, let's say I log into I'm in LinkedIn, I search the company, JB Hunt, then I'll click on all their employees and I'll filter the CRM employees or, everyone that has CRM on their LinkedIn that works at JB Hunt. From there, I'll try to connect with people. And, once I connect with them, just reach out like, hey, I came across this, advert right here. Interested in learning more about, how I can help you guys, or hey, I'm really interested in joining the team, who's the best person to contact, and just reaching out to the real decision maker. Because a lot of times when you do those tracking system, application systems or whatever, you're right, it won't get to a person. So why not try to go out there and find that person and present yourself versus hoping that they see your resume. But I'm sure Nate has another answer for it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Reaching out to try and reach out to maybe the hiring manager, or even just a simple follow-up email. Sometimes things get lost in the work, especially with a lot of ATS systems and within the HR world as well, especially. The resume may get lost in a stack of hundreds or thousands, but a simple follow-up email to whoever posted the advert, or whoever is listed as the hiring manager for that, whether it's in HR or whatever department, following up to the, hey, I saw this, whether it's LinkedIn or email, like, hey, I saw this, that you're looking for a senior developer. Here's my experience. I'd love to learn more and figure out the best way to apply. and getting that, tailoring that follow-up email, tailoring that message on LinkedIn to whoever you're speaking to, and that you didn't just click and copy and paste the same message to 50 different HR managers, can really go a long way, because it shows that you did research, you took initiative to reach out to whoever it is that may be hiring. And even if you reach the wrong person, showing that initiative and showing that dedication will 9 times out of 10 want them to at least point you in the right direction and try and do what they can to put you on the right path of who to talk to and the best way to get that interview or to get that resume actually reviewed.
Yeah, and
This is awesome. This is really good. There's a couple of questions also that I think points to the same. They're actually the same one. I mean, at least to me, it's essentially folks looking for tips on, getting the foot at the door, going to pursuing more like an entry level job. How we break into it. I'll give you my perspective as a consultant in the market, and then Daniel and Nate, if you can extend from where you see, that would be great. So on my end though, the Power Platform has opened a huge opportunity for folks who are versed with using the computer but lack essentially software development skills like coding per se. So today you can get a lot done just knowing the process, the business process, without resorting to programming languages to deliver a solution. So I'm gonna put a profile, someone that I know that has his career pretty much changed completely. He's one of the poster child for the Power Platform. He used to be a security guard at Heathrow, and he's now an IT professional, renowned IT professional. Well, nobody's traveling anymore, but when traveling was a thing, he was traveling and delivering training, and he was a speaker in many of the events that the 365 Saturday organization put together. So what I would say is, dive into learning, and then when you figure that you can build an app, then put a video on YouTube on how you're able to do that. Then start sharing knowledge. People will start to notice you, and then your profile itself will hire you. Not necessarily. I mean, of course, you have to go through the interviews and learn a lot of other skills that are necessary for the job, but at least the lack of experience in the market would be somewhat overcome by what you posted online. That's my 2 cents essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Taking the baby steps, taking the little bit here, the little bit there, asking, being a sponge, having that student mentality of, taking advice from anyone who's willing to offer, doing the little things like Victor said, like creating an app, whether practicing like in Sandbox, playing around in Sandbox, making YouTube videos, LinkedIn posts, user group posts, little things to kind of market yourself out and market your skill set out, can really go a long way. And that snowball effect, the little bit here, the little bit there, really it compounds, and it really, with a lot of the hard work and the marketing and building those connections, building out your network, your professional network, it'll really do most of the work for you once you start getting that built up, and putting that initial legwork in.
Yeah, no, I agree with both Victor and Nate. Just one thing I would say is just be sure to don't expose yourself to too much information. You know what I mean? Especially within Dynamics 365. You know what I mean? You got ERP, CRM. There's so many different tools and modules being used within Dynamics nowadays. You know, just make sure whenever you choose a direction, let's say you want to work with the CRM route or customer engagement route, just don't get caught up with all this, ERP and F&O and Business Central information because, truthfully, I haven't seen an expert that's, uh, highly skilled in both ERP and CRM. And just because Dynamics is, a very broad, platform, just be sure you sit down and you think about it before you just run with something, just because, you don't want to get lost with all the information out there.
That's very good. Very good tips.
Now there's a few other questions, so I kind of wanted to go over this one with Andy asked. It was the first question. He asked when interviewer is asked next steps or feedback, they in turn mention HR will get back to you. Does that means you're not a good fit for the role? Um, That's a good question, Andy. And I mean, I don't believe that doesn't mean you're not a good fit for the role. Ultimately, they are the decision maker. So, you do need to impress them, but, they may just want to buy more time to talk to more candidates. And at that point, I would just make sure you're continuing to follow up. And to go into Ross Lee's question as well, feel free to follow up maybe a day or two after the initial interview, and then from there, reach out every 2 days or something like that. But the most important thing is really setting up that feedback call or that follow up call after the interview. You know what I mean? Whenever you're leaving, be like, hey, I'll reach back out on Wednesday at 4 p.m. Does that sound good with you? He says yes. Cool. Alrighty. So at 4 p.m., you have a call on Wednesday. So that's one way I would try to avoid, the whole chasing the feedback or chasing, the follow up. So I think Nate has a different way as well. Or
Yeah, and kind of going back to the question, who I think you said my questions aren't really showing up on my screen as well. But I think you had mentioned that Andy had asked about HR will follow up with you. A lot of the times, that's, I know personally, depending on the client that I'm working with, and I'm sure that Danny can kind of attest to this as well, is a lot of times it's us getting feedback can be one of the hardest parts of the interview process, because we'll have to chase the hiring manager or the interviewer or HR. And sometimes it's just they might be busy. Sometimes that they just might be slow getting back, because it just might not be their personal top priority when obviously as the interviewee, you're interested and you're curious to see how they thought it went. You thought it went well, but you haven't heard back from them in a day or two. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a no. Sometimes it's just they're slow getting back. Sometimes they're just, that's their internal policy, is to wait X amount of days to provide feedback. So I wouldn't always take that as a negative sign. It just sometimes, unfortunately, it becomes a waiting game. But I know Danny had addressed the question of following up, and how soon you should follow up. Yeah, within maybe a day or like maybe 2 days. Give them time to discuss between HR and the team or the hiring manager or the C-suite. Give them a day or two to kind of discuss the feedback, share the feedback around, and get that back to you. I think that's, I can't really see any of the other questions. Danny, if you see any that you'd like to address, I feel free to. I would love to answer them as well.
Cool. Yeah, I know we only have a couple minutes here, so I'll try to just get the ones I see here. So we had a question about, with this ongoing situation, the world's currently in, do we have any good tips for, interviews that are being done through Skype or Teams? Yeah. One tip I would say is just make sure, your sound and, your microphone volume is stable. Nothing's worse than getting on an interview and you're just hearing, static, or you can hardly hear someone. So, that's my number one tip is ultimately, make sure you can understand them and hear them, and make sure that they can, hear and understand you. From there, obviously, video, just I prefer if, the people are sitting back a bit so they can see, like, their overall face and, their body language as well. Because a lot of times, you'll get some people up here at their computer, the webcam's right on their face, but you can tell they're clearly looking up answers to an interview question or something like that. So I always recommend, people just sit back a little bit, calm, just look into the webcam and just, answer whatever questions you may have without, touching your computer or anything, because, you don't want them to think that you're having to look something up when you just replying to an email to your sister or something. So that's my advice on that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
one of the things also in the dynamics of working from home and doing stuff remotely, I think there's also value in being honest in terms of what's happening where you are located. So, for example, if you have your kids and you're gonna take the interview, and there'll be a little bit of noise in the background, I think people generally like to be warned beforehand, right? I'm taking this call, but I have my kids in the living room. I don't assume that things will go south, but if it does, because it's the reality for everybody. So if you can be honest and upfront on that sense, I think that's good too.
Yeah, absolutely. I know from our side, transparency goes a long way, both with speaking with candidates and speaking with clients, letting them know the potential of bad news. A lot of times, clients don't really necessarily. They're obviously they wouldn't prefer it, but they're not really too off put by if something happens, like something minor happens, or some bad news. But if they're warned about the potential of it, and let them and they're aware that it could be an opportunity